I'm Dan Goldstein, and I'm joined today with Marvin Fertel, president of the Nuclear Energy Institute. Marvin, thanks for joining us.
Dan, thanks for having me.
Sure. Marvin, let's talk about the Kerry-Boxer bill. Where do you see the nuclear piece fitting in right now for your industry with the bill?
Well, we're pleased that they've moved forward with the bill so that there's going to be hearings and discussion. They put a very good finding in on nuclear, but the substance on what you need to do to implement that finding is missing. And we're in the process right this week of providing our friends in both the Senate and the House and the administration with what the nuclear industry believes will help us contribute to providing electricity without the emission of greenhouse gases.
Give us an idea of what you think the bill has to be improved with for the nuclear industry. What is it lacking? What does it need?
Well, a lot of what it needs for the nuclear industry, it needs for all clean energy technologies, including the use of renewables, including coal with carbon capture and storage, and including natural gas as it moves forward. We think you need a financing platform similar to what Senator Bingaman has in his Clean Energy Deployment Administration that will help us finance a large amount of new capacity that doesn't emit greenhouse gases. So that's a thing that we think is necessary for nuclear as well as all the other clean energy technologies.
Now, you had written in a letter back in June to Henry Waxman, Chairman Waxman, saying that it really more financial support from the government was needed because of the plans dependent on nuclear, and that if we needed as many as 100 nuclear plants, I believe, by 2030, there would have to be a significant increase in government help, at least in the form of loan guarantees. Is that still the case?
That's still the case, and again, as I said, it's not just for nuclear, it's actually for all our clean energy technology. A second thing that we're saying, and again, this is not necessarily unique to nuclear, is we want to rebuild our manufacturing infrastructure in this country for deployment of nuclear plants as well as deployment of other technologies. We need investment tax credits that will help us do that from a manufacturing standpoint. And the third thing we're looking at from a nuclear standpoint is the current licensing process is a very good licensing process. We need to make sure we get all the efficiencies we can out of it as we move forward with standardized nuclear power plants.
Now let's talk about the allocation allowances. 35% of those allowances are going to the electricity industry. Very small percentage of that is going to nuclear for retraining and otherwise a small amount. Right. Does that need to be? How does that need to be changed, if at all, in your view?
Well, I think on the allocation allowances, if you really want to move forward and transition from our current system to a much cleaner system, you need to allocate those appropriately the way the Edison Electric Institute has proposed. And that would allow us to, one, put more nuclear plants online, but also transition from the coal plants that we have to a cleaner coal foundation, as well as a lot more natural gas, I'm sure.
From what you've seen, though, give us an idea of what you see happening in the next week with these hearings. What do you expect to hear, and what do you expect to go forward with, especially some of the things that we've talked about, some of the things that we've heard about, where Republicans are not very happy at all with the pace and the timing of certainly the dropping this bill that occurred late on Friday. Have people even had a chance to read it and understand what's in it?
It's almost 900 pages, so the answer is obviously, Dan, I don't think anybody's read it and really understands it. I doubt the people that dropped it have read the whole bill and completely understand it. But one of the things we saw last week, which going to your question on what may happen, we saw a poll done by a National Journal which showed that 81% of the Democratic senators actually supported a climate bill with a very strong nuclear title. So what we see necessary from our standpoint is putting forth what has to be in that nuclear title. There'll be hearings this week. There'll be CEOs from utilities testifying. We'll be up talking with Senator Boxer and everybody else. I think the op-ed by Senators Kerry and Graham has started a movement for moderates to begin to talk about a climate bill. We believe you're not going to get a climate bill without a strong nuclear title, but that's not alone going to get you a climate bill in the Senate. You're going to have to deal with some of the other challenges that the Waxman-Markey bill have put on the table, and that probably the Boxer-Kerry bill has, that I have not had the opportunity to read yet.
If you had to, I mean, right now, pretty much nobody out there says the Democrats have 60 votes to get to where they need to be. But if you had to, and there was a strong nuclear component, would there be Republican crossover votes, maybe Lamar Alexander of Tennessee and Senator John McCain of Arizona, would they be crossing over to support this bill if there was a nuclear component they like?
Well, I'm not sure they would. I heard Senator Alexander indicate that while he definitely wants to make sure there's a strong nuclear title and would not vote for one without it, he is opposed to a economy-wise cap and trade program, so he has indicated he probably wouldn't. I think Senator McCain has been a leader on dealing with climate change, and I think that he'll be looking at the bill very carefully and seeing what role he can play, but I'm not sure that just a nuclear title right now will do it for either of those two. I do think you will get Republican senators that will move over as you fix other things and you have a nuclear title, and I don't think you'll get them without a nuclear title.
Bottom line, do you see a bill being passed in 2009, or is this going to go out to 2010 or even 2011?
I don't personally see how you can pass it in 2009. You have health care before it. The president's got to deal with Afghanistan. They're looking at regulation of the financial community. And this is a very complex bill to deal with. So I can't see it in 2009.
Any major changes that you expect going to happen during the markup that we ought to be looking for?
Well, I think the big changes we'll expect to see, again, the Kerry-Boxer bill has a good finding on nuclear, but really no substance of material to implement that finding to get us to where you need to have nuclear to contribute. So hopefully we'll see some nuclear provisions actually added to it, either during the mock-up or ultimately when they get to the floor.
Marvin, thanks for joining us. I've been talking with Marvin Fertel, President and CEO of the Nuclear Energy Institute. I'm Dan Goldstein for Clean Skies News.